Okay, so you're playing 11-handed.
Yeah.
All right. And what is it, a 1-2 game?
So it's a 1-3 game, but it's
1-3.
wild, super action. It plays big.
Okay.
So, under the gun, who's like the best player in the game, opens to 15,
Okay, so under the
which is
gun to
the standard
15.
open.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Massive calling station, old lady calls under the gun one.
Okay.
Um, and then the low jack calls. He's like bad, but like thinks, he's not just blindly putting money in. And then two more old lady calling stations calling the hijack and the cutoff. And I'm on the button with queens,
Okay.
and I make it 105.
And the stacks are, you don't have to go through each person, but just an approximate of the
They're kind of
relevant
all,
stacks. Like, how much do you have?
I have like 1400.
And then, so you've got some deep stat, and there's some people in there with like different stack sizes, basically. Some like 1,000 or
Under the
something.
gun covers me,
Okay. That's good to know.
and the
It's
the
possible.
low jack has about the same.
It's okay. So, yeah, it's possible that this 3-bet is a little bit small here. Under the gun to 15 plus 1 calls. So you've got a raise, 1 call, 2 calls, 3 calls, 4 calls. I might make it larger. I may make it 120 to 125 here. I mean, I guess 105. Here's the thing. This is where sort of I think you'd vary your 3-bet size, and because we don't know the exact stack sizes of everybody in between, but I could definitely see making it smaller here if everyone's like only like 300 deep. You know what I mean? Or less than 400 deep, like in between. If everyone's got over 800, I would probably make it a little bit larger. But okay, you make it 105. Who calls you?
So small blind cold calls. She is like the crazy calling station old Asian lady. She's the most fun action player in the game. She calls
Uh
in the
huh.
small blind. Big blind folds, under the gun folds. Under the gun one calls, the low jack calls, and the hijack calls. So I'll give you the stack sizes for those people. The small blind lady has 1K. Under the
Okay.
gun has, I'm sorry, under the gun one has 600. The low jack has about the same as me, a little less, 12 or 1300. And then the hijack calls was about 3 or 400.
All right. So three to
There
four.
were 5 ways, pots 550.
Oh, good. You get the math out for me, low jack. All right. So 5 ways, 550, small blind cold calls, plus 1 calls, low jack calls, hijack calls, and you're on the button. So 550. All right. Let's go to the flop.
So flop is a king 8-3 rainbow, and it checks around.
King 8-3 rainbow. Check, 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 and Mona checks. Think that that's probably pretty good. I mean, obviously you block. I mean, here's some of the things here too. Like, obviously this type of game, like you're probably going to see all kinds of offsuit broadways. So you're going to have a lot more
More than
king.
that.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have a lot more king X than people are going to have a lot more king X than they should here. I was just going to say, like, sometimes you can look really deep into your specific hand in a sort of a tighter game, and it's like, well, people are 3-betting or 4-betting off with ace king. I've got queens, less of a chance they have king queen. Do they have a king? Sometimes people get a little overly scared in those situations on king high boards, but obviously I would check this back too. So okay, 550 to the turn.
And now turn is a king, it's still rainbow.
Okay.
Now, this is where the hand like goes off. The small blind leads for 50. Now, these people don't really think about bet sizes relative to the pot.
Mm-hmm.
They see 50 as like a normal turn bet sizing. A lot of the time, they don't really look at what's in the pot and then base their turn sizing off of that.
I do agree with you. I do agree with what you're saying, although I can't imagine that this is even if it's the wildest game in the world, I can't imagine that this is a regular scenario where you've got a $550 pot, 3-bet, 5 ways. unless it's just like crazy insane. The reason why I say that is that I do acknowledge what you're saying, that a lot of recreational players at this level do not pay attention to the stack sizes, but I still think that this is a very sort of absurdly small bet. And I'm going to think ahead a couple of streets here, like a chess player. I don't know what's going to call. I mean, I read your email. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen in the middle. But for example, this is what I would immediately be thinking. If the small blind bets 50, let's say everybody folds and you call, and then the river's a brick and she checks, you have the best hand 100% of the time based upon the small bet on the turn and the check on the river. If she bets 50 and like two people call or whatever, and then there's a blank at the end and they all check to you, you still probably have the best hand on the river. So what happened in the middle here? She bets 50.
Well, you basically just summed up exactly what happened in the whole hand.
Oh, sorry. I was just
Yeah.
giving you. So how many people called in between?
She bets 50.
Yeah.
Under the gun one calls. The low jack calls. The only person that folded was the one with the 3 or 400. The small stack was the only one that folded.
And then you call.
So now I call. Sorry.
Right. So you put in.
I think I might have. I don't know. Would you raise the turn? Like I'm thinking maybe bump it up to like 125 because I probably have the best hand. So like someone could be slow playing.
So I put the board off as totally rainbow, like rainbow flop, rainbow turn, like king of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 3 of spades, king of hearts. I mean, that would be a pretty thin raise. And the problem here is that like if you check back flop and raise turn, it's very, very hard. I think you're going to get just a ton of hands to fold out. Whereas a lot of times you can call and then make a very thin value bet on the river when checked to. I would like to see it be like a backdoor sort of flush draw out there so that you can appear to possibly miss something. But in general, I would probably call here. So they just put in another, you just put in 200s. The pot's 750 now, right? 750? Oh, I muted Mona. Sorry, Mona. Oh, all right. Mona, I'm sorry. I muted you by mistake. So the pot's 750 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's the river?
The river's a 3.
Okay.
And it checks to me.
And it checks to you. So 3 people check, right? Or 1, 2, 3. I mean, the 3 is not. I mean, I still think you get the best hand here, like a ton. It's not the.
Yeah, me too.
It's not the best. It's not 100% the best card in the world for you because I think that people are probably going to call less often on a double paired board. And then very, very occasionally, if the game is super wild, somebody might have actually run into a 3 and is just scared and it checks to you. Like I would literally rather see this be a 4. Like if it's an offsuit 4, it gets checked to your betting. The pot's 750. This is sort of the difference between like playing in a cash game and a tournament. In a tournament, like when your stack size is a little bit low, like you might just check behind here because, you know, the money that you win by getting extra value is not as important as the money you might lose as your stack goes down. I mean, I would bet. I just think that you have to have the best hand here. I would probably bet like 150. I might bet 100 or 150 here.
Yeah,
can't go crazy large.
Called it in. It's because I was really mad at myself for checking it back because I really think I would have done like 200, 250 but like I was just, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was thinking one, like if someone has a king and they're slow playing, and this is kind of where I get into the second part of my email with you, or like if someone, the only thinking player in the hand basically senses I don't have a king because I wouldn't play it that way and decides to bluff raise me, I'm just gonna be like, why did I put myself in this spot? And I'm like,
yeah, but that's one of the reasons why you don't make thin value bets, and this is one of the reasons. So what you just described is partially why you can't value bet as thinly the higher stakes you go up and in the tougher games that you play in, because if you're playing against tougher players, you can get blown off your equity. Okay. But the counter, and I've always said this on Crush Live Poker stuff, at the low stakes, you need to take this free roll that's not going to happen. it might happen once in a great while, but the times that you're going to get extra value by not being concerned about being bluff raised on the river, especially in the form of a check raise, far, far outweighs the times that you need to worry about getting raised off the best hand. So that's why I would bet. So you checked it back,
Yeah, unfortunately.
and I'm
And
assuming
I
that you
know
have the
it's
best
checking
hand,
back
right?
to the. Yeah, the only hand I saw was nines. No one
Nines
else
from who?
had nines.
Do you know who had nines?
Under the gun one had nines.
Under the gun one had nine. So if it gets checked over to you and you bet 100 or 150, and that's the other thing too is that the great thing about not having to get blown off your equity in at the low stakes here is that people won't turn hands into bluffs either. So they'll be way more often to call with like 7-8 here than say turn it into a bluff, thinking like one step ahead and being like, oh, she might be value betting like a pair of jacks here. And I can't beat that. Maybe my 7-8 suited would actually be better played as a raise instead of a call. You just don't see that at the low stakes. People don't want to turn pairs into bluffs. They'll turn air into bluffs, but I think it's close, Mona. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset about it. It's kind of a weird multi-way spot, but I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
if
never really get into the spot where like I'm betting into three people on the river. I mean, it's rare to even bet into two people on the river, but three, I don't think I ever have
yeah. No, I agree
in
with you.
recent
But
memory.
like I said, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself though. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this call in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.